Hello everyone, it's Stephen Graham from Graham's Boomerangs, coming to you from northeastern Oklahoma, and I'm here to talk about some of my new boomerangs I've been making. These are short range boomerangs. They're good for throwing in a small space like a front yard or gymnasium, and they're good for kids to learn to throw on. They're made out of ABS plastic, which is a great material, very durable. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. They have a slight bend to the wing, which gives them their lift. I'm going to show right now my secrets to making these kind of boomerangs. So if you can get some of this plastic, which I'll talk about where that can be found, then you'll be able to also make some. I do sell them as well, but they're not hard to make either. So I'll be selling these for usually around $10 per boomerang, and they're a lot of fun. So let's get started and we'll talk about the manufacturing of these boomerangs. So this is the sheet plastic, and I go to Tulsa, and any large city will have plastic supply shops where this kind of plastic can be found. This is 1/16 inch thick ABS plastic. I also make some out of 1/8 inch ABS, and that is a completely different boomerang, and it has a carved airfoil rather than a bent airfoil. Most plastic shops, a lot of plastic manufacturing shops that manufacture items from plastic, and as well as sell sheet material, will have some scrap bins. And sometimes you can go into the plastic shop and ask to look through their scrap bins, and you might find a scrap of ABS plastic. So, and you can see how thin that material is. It's flexible, but I'm gonna take care of some of that flexibility. I make a 3-bladed shape out of this. ABS is very durable. You can see it has a lot of impact resistance, so it's not wanting to break. Now I can bend that material, and even with bending it, now if I bend that back and forth, you can see eventually it'll get some weakness in it, but you're not going to be abusing a boomerang like this. But you can see it's a very tough material, but I can tear it if I bend it back and forth many times. But it's very durable for making a boomerang out of. So what I do is I have a pattern that I have my shape, and I've traced them out on here, and I'm cutting through 3 layers here, but you could cut through a single layer. I use a jigsaw to cut it, but some people might prefer a bandsaw or other methods. Since I'm using such a big sheet, I buy a sheet that is 4 by 8, so I'm cutting out such a big, it'd be hard to get under a bandsaw. So I'm using a jigsaw, which is a little bit of a problem because this material will want to catch and go up and down in the jigsaw. So I have to stabilize it a little bit here, and you can see I've chewed into the edge of my table a lot doing this method, but that's okay. This is what the workshop's for. So I'll be very careful with my fingers and stabilize this. Around to this side. Now, a word on these shapes. This is a 3-bladed shape, and out of material this thin, if we tried to make a 2-bladed shape, there's probably ways we could get it to work, but this material has so much flex to it, a 2-bladed shape will be a little bit too flexible, and it will lose a lot of energy as it flies, and airfoil will distort back and forth, and it won't fly very well. So usually out of thinner materials like this, 3-bladed or even a 4-bladed shape would be better. There's nothing magical about this exact shape. It could be made smaller. It could be made with a crooked wing. So I've been making some that have straight wings and some that have bent wings. So this is one that has a slightly swept forward wing, which I happen to like, a slightly swept forward wing. But these straight wing shapes are great too. So you can try different shapes out of it. Now, after it's cut out like this, I will take this to my drum sander and just run it around if there's any imperfections here on the edge. So this one's already pretty much done, but I will just run that around the edge and clean it up a little bit. Now, oftentimes we'll have a burr from the sanding, and so I will use some sandpaper here and just take care of that. Knock that off and round that. Now, I'm really not carving the airfoil. I'm just making that a little bit smoother all the way around. Knocking that rough edge off. I'm always feeling it here as I'm doing this so that I can make sure I get that nice and smooth. This is actually a sanding belt that I'm using here that's just perfect for this job. Just put a little curve to that sandpaper and get right in there. Then I'll use a little bit of sanding cloth here and go around the whole thing. I'm being careful that I don't just have this thing distort too much on me. Checking these ends and making sure if I find any rough spots to get them out. Now this shape is still flat, so it has a lot of flexibility to it. If you threw it like this, it's not going to fly very well. It probably won't return at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some bend to this. I'm going to put a bend along here, and I don't measure this, but I could make a jig to do this where it would be the same every time. But I'm going to come about halfway or a little bit less than halfway, and I'm going to angle that down like that. So I'm going to curve, I'm going to put a bend right here along that line basically. And this is the back edge of my wing and this is the front edge because I like this textured side to be the top of my boomerang rather than the smooth side. ABS sheet plastic, most of the time it comes with a textured side and a smooth side. You can get it different ways. A lot of, different formulas of it too, but this stuff is perfect here, and usually the sheet plastic will be just this exact kind. So what I'm going to do is to help me bend this, I'm going to heat the plastic, and I have a heat gun here, and so I'm going to heat the plastic, and check just a second for the heat gun to get hot. So once that heat gun's hot, I don't want to leave it on here very long. I don't want to overheat it. You can see how it, when I heat the back side of that, it starts to warp that wing. And just a few seconds of having that heat gun on there. Now I'm going to lay this on I've got a piece of metal here. I'm going to lay that on that piece of metal and push down. And that boomerang's a little warm, but not warm enough to burn me. But I put that little bend down in that wing, like that. Now I'm going to do another wing. This also stiffens the boomerang. That little fold causes that to be stiffer. Stiffens the material. So that's working, it's adding my airfoil, but it's also stiffening that wing a little bit. Okay, so that's enough on that one, because that heat gun was hot now. So right there like that. If I overheat that material, I've got to take it between something, heat it up again, take it between something, and flatten it back out again. So I try not to overheat, and I try to make a nice smooth edge on there. If I overheat it, you'll get a wavy edge along this back edge, and you can see it's got one little wave in it here, but it's pretty good. So heat this. That's good. We'll bend that. Now that is ready to fly. So I'm going to check those. See, I have a little rough spot here. So we'll make sure I don't. Sometimes heating it will take out those little rough spots too. But you can see the amount of bend I have down in that back edge of that wing. That's adding drag to the boomerang and adding that lift that we need. You can look at the boomerang this way, and it should be pretty flat or have a slight, what we call dihedral, which would be a bend upwards in a wing. And so we have it now. It should fly very well. It should be ready to throw. We'd hold it back like this in our hand, and we'd throw it out almost straight up and down like that, and around it will come. I'm going to have another video where I show some of the throwing of these kind of boomerangs. I like to decorate mine, so spray paint is great. And another reason why I put that textured side on the top, because that spray paint will go down to all that little texture. Even if it gets scratched, it's not going to scratch it out of all those little grooves in there. So you can do lots of things with stencils or little sticker shapes. These were little star stickers that I stuck on there. I've got a little kangaroo stencil that I use on a lot of my boomerangs, since the origin of boomerangs is Australia. So tape, this is just masking tape to make these stripes. So very simple to do. All kinds of fun designs on your boomerangs with that. Here's a one that looks like kind of a camo idea, and here's another one that has flames. So these are a lot of fun to play with, and short range, and the kids will love them. So if you can find some of this plastic, if you can get a hold of it, there's other materials that will work in a similar way, but this ABS plastic is just great stuff. Very durable, very tough, makes a very long-lasting boomerang that, unless you know, I store mine in the trunk of my car and never have any problem with the heat. Taking them out of warping them, you know, or anything like that. I think if you left them on a hot dash of a car or something, you might have a problem with it. But this can be adjusted a little bit if the boomerang is returning too quickly or too short of a circle, then this can be lessened. If it's going too high, this angle can be tweaked. Just tweak that down a little bit and a little less dihedral, and you can adjust that. If you want a higher flight, you can add a little bit more dihedral to it until you get it tuned exactly where you want and how you want it to fly. So, Stephen Graham from Graham's Boomerangs, and enjoy your boomerangs.